Welcome back, y'all. So, in proper D&D fashion, you made your character, you picked the class, you know what they look like, what they're gonna sound like, you dressed them up, you have your mini over here painted. What we're gonna do now is decide what our backstory is. And so in D&D, typically towards the end of the creation process, you can give them a standard backstory that kind of supports why they might have certain abilities or gives them additional abilities that you might not have thought to give them. So, for example, like if you picked a military background, you might be able to have proficiency driving cars. Or if you were a charlatan, you might have proficiency in sleight of hand. So, it kind of gives you an extra little bump to that, but it could also hold you back in areas where it would make sense that you weren't necessarily proficient. So, for example, with the charlatan background, if you're a charlatan, you're probably not the most trustworthy. You're probably typically going to pull one over on people. And so, there could be people out there that have a very bad taste in their mouth when your name's brought up. And so, it might come and bite you in the butt. In the character creation, this is also an element for Tiny Tina's. So we're going to go through each one and see. Typically, what I like to do is match up what I feel like my character's classes with the abilities that it will boost up. And then I typically try to like balance out my negatives just a little bit by adding some points in there. So, for example, if I was a rogue alchemist, I would want to add in a couple of points here so my dexterity wouldn't be trash. But let's go through each one. So, village idiot. Oh, you sweet large child, blessed with looks, muscles, and exactly two brain cells that never call each other. You are made in the image of the gods, specifically Belethonian, god of himbos. You were always destined either for greatness or to be legally categorized as construction equipment. So your archetype would be thick. So this is going to be a great one for your big, strong, dumb guy or girl. It gives you a huge bonus, +8 to your strength. And so that's going to help you with crit damage. Your dexterity is going to be where your crit chance comes from. So you might want to add in a couple points to your dexterity so you have a better chance of doing that mega damage. Or if you have a character like the Stabomancer, thinking if that's the right one. Yeah, the Stabomancer. You automatically have a better chance at crit. So this could go well with that. So you can get off really hard hitting big damage crits and a good chance at crit. Your intelligence and your wisdom go way down because you're a big, strong, dumb guy. So if you were playing a wizard, for example, this would be a terrible class for them. Your constitution is going to be your hit points and your ward. I believe your ward is your shield. So you might want to put some points in there if you're going to be strong and all up in people's faces. But this one really plays to you hit hard. And then your attunement's going to be your skill cooldown, so for your specials. Raised by elves. Archetype nimble. You really don't like bringing it up, but you grew up in an elven commune. A steady diet of uncooked leaves and tree sap has left you light on your feet but scrawny. Also, if you have to hear one more harp solo in your life, you're going to lose your gourd. So this one's going to be dexterity. This would be a good one for the Stabomancer also, just because it gives you a lot of dexterity. But if you notice, it also takes away a lot of your constitution. So if you're getting up close and personal, then that means you're going to have less shield, less health. But your skill cooldown goes up just a bit, which means you're going to be able to do a lot of specials. You're going to be able to get a lot of crits. I would even throw in some crit damage over here and your strength. That way when you do crit, you crit hard. And yeah, sounds good. Failed monk. So this is the archetype nerd. A powerful calling led you to leave your life behind and travel to a mountain monastery, where you could learn ancient teachings and contemplate the meaning of all things in peace. Then you emptied your chamber pot out the window and hit the head monk mid-yawn, fearing that vows of non-violence can Fearing that vows of nonviolence can only extend so far, you fled in the night, seeking another calling. Wow. So this one, you have high intelligence and wisdom, but your strength and dex are trash. So you're not gonna get very many crits. You're not gonna hit very hard when you do get crits. Your constitution and attunements are right, but it's really going to be in the intelligence and wisdom, so this is going to be good for spellcasters. Recovering inventory hoarder. So this is me in every game. I actually think this is what I gave my character, and in retrospect didn't think about it and probably screwed my character a little bit, but it's alright. You once scrambled across your fantastical world, stuffing your pockets with every last candlestick and wheel of cheese you could sweep off the shelves. You've sworn off junk, but now your eye turns towards implements of destruction and their gleaming loot beams. Pack rat is the archetype. And so this one is your strength is going to be normal, your dexterity and your constitution are down. So you don't crit often, and you are just innately lower health and shield, but your intelligence is pretty high and your attunement's pretty high. If this was a D&D character, it would definitely be like a sneaky person who is hoping not to get caught, but can pull off abilities pretty frequently and probably far, like a distance ability like magic arrow or something. Rogue alchemist. Archetype savvy. The Royal Alchemist Society strictly regulates transmutation magic. Screw you guys. You made a name for yourself, hawking off brand affordable jewelry, but are recently unemployed and on the run after the local baron discovered his new golden amulet was made of chocolate. Boom, boom, boom. I mean, at least he had the courtesy of replacing it with something. Just not a fair trade. So this one, let's see. So your dexterity's down, which if you were a rogue, that would be terrible in my opinion. But I think it's focusing more on the alchemist part. So dexterity's down, wisdom's up, and attunement's up. Your constitution's down. So you don't get crits often. You start with lower health and shield, but you have a shit ton of damage behind your spells, and your skills cool down quicker, so you can do it more frequently. It's pretty good in my opinion. Nerfed by the Bunker Master. Archetype protagonist. Like that one goddess from the one mythology we're trying to stop naming things after. You burst forth fully formed from a god's head. You're good at pretty much everything. In fact, too good. The Bunker Master didn't mean to give you this character, so, here. You'll take a dexterity hit. Yeah, that's probably balanced. So this one, there isn't really a D&D backstory similar to this, but basically this is kind of a play on there's always that person in every D&D circle that makes a way overpowered starter character. Like, they take their job super serious, min-maxing, maybe cheating even if you have that one character. It happens sometimes. This is that. And so when your DM is super busy and is flying through your backstories because you made a freaking 40-page backstory, sometimes they make oversights. And here is a good example of they were probably too busy, didn't realize that you made a beast of a character, and they tried to balance you out by giving you a deficit somewhere. So this character is strong in pretty much all the areas, but if you can get a crit. If you don't get a crit, you're still doing really well. You can keep spamming it, but once you finally do get that crit, it's gonna hurt. This would actually be a really fun character. I would probably try to dump a couple points in there to try to get rid of that -8. And then wreak havoc and be way overpowered. Clown blood. Oops, I didn't mean to push the button. Clown blood. Archetype witty. Ah, oh, ho ho. There's a curse in your blood, stranger. Somewhere, snarled in the fetid roots of your family tree, is a pair of comically oversized shoes. Do you hear it? The honking? The chortles? Yes, the forbidden knowledge of the clown flows through your veins. So this one, you're strong and you're smart. You don't really have a deficit when trying to get a crit off. Your health, your shield's pretty basic. It's the same, like it's average. But you're not super smart, and your cooldown is gonna take a while. So you will have your special, but it's gonna take a while before you can get it off again. Honestly, this makes me think of creepy clowns with big mallets attacking people. I've watched a lot of American Horror Story. Apprentice Barnacle Scraper. Archetype Plucky. From the day that you laid eyes on your first galleon, encrusted in sea warts from the poxed kiss of the umpteen seas, it was your dream to someday wield a chisel underneath those bad boys. It wasn't long before that dream became reality. You have a dock worker's brawn and a union paycheck, but now it's time for a new, less stupid dream. And so this one is kind of neat in my opinion. So you're pretty strong. When you do hit, you hit hard. When you crit, you hit hard. And you also have a really high skill cooldown, so you can hit pretty frequently. And so you get your skill off, you're hitting hard, get your skill off, you're hitting hard. Your spell cooldown, not so much. You're not going to be casting Magic Missile or Meteor or anything like that pretty frequently, but you don't have a deficit to it. It's just the cooldown there. So you're still going to be able to hit. You're just going to be mostly prioritizing your skill, which kind of goes into the whole you're smart, but you're strong. Sea Urchin Success Story. Archetype Cunning. I think this is the last one here. The oldest story in the book. You and your filthy crew of pickpockets and thieves have found yourself one last job. The big one. Something stank about it. Worse than you. But you were just malnourished and desperate enough to try it. We all know what happened next. It went pretty well. You all made a comfortable amount of money and moved out to the suburbs. Sometimes you write letters to each other, but it's been a while. That wasn't where I was thinking it was going to go, but it makes sense because it's a success story. This one, you're relaxed, your guard's down, your health and your shield's low, your strength and your intelligence high, you're feeling like you have the experience and the know-how to do it again. Everything else is pretty average, so this isn't a terrible one. It's just, don't get hit. Easy peasy. All right. And the cool thing here is once you pick your backstory, it actually tells you this backstory is best for these ones here. I have a Spore Warden that I selected, so this might not be the best one for it. Maybe pick again. So it gives you a chance to go back and be like, oh, okay, maybe I need to fix something here. And then you have 10 hero points available when you start plucking in your skills. And so, kind of going back to what I was saying, where you had deficits here and there, like this nerfed by Bunkmaster has a deficit -8 in my dex. And it even shows you right here, -8. So, you could potentially just completely get rid of that and start with a decently balanced score sheet. I would probably do that. Or you can dump it somewhere else. So, like, if you know you're playing a big old beefy man or woman or person, you could just dump it all into strength. So when you do crit, Jesus, do you crit? They do have a max on it. The max does go up a little bit, I believe, as you level. And then as you level, you get a point, so you can continuously add on to your base stats. Yeah, and see that this nerfed by the Bunkmaster would be a bad one because my Spore Warden needs dexterity. So I'm gonna go back and change it to something with good dex. Probably raised by elves. There we go. And so, since I picked raised by elves, and because my Spore Warden automatically starts off with high dexterity, this started off way high. And so you could just dump your... Oh, no, sorry. Just kidding. It's because I had it in there. It still started off pretty high. It's its best stat. And so I would probably put some points here because I don't want my Spore Warden to just get crushed right off the bat. And then I would start putting it into areas that I think would be important. So probably attunement. That way I can use my skills frequently. And crit, definitely. I'm gonna put 2 here. I'm gonna put 2 here. And I'm gonna put some in strength just because I don't want the damage to hurt when it does happen. Alright. And then last but not least is your name. What do we want the name to be? Normally I hit random a few times and go off of that, but we'll call this... We'll call him Spoon. Cuckoo Cachoo. Alright, and that is the character creation. So all you have left is to hit start and your journey begins.